openness and honesty is extremely important.
Elisha Lee is the owner of Restoring Your Christian Counseling, host of Elisha Space podcast, and published author and sought-after speaker. With a passion for holistic healing, Elisha empowers individuals to overcome challenges and cultivate restoration in their lives through counseling, storytelling, and practical tools. Her authentic approach offers hope to navigating life's storms. Whether through her writing, counseling sessions, or speaking engagements, she inspires transformation and purpose-driven living.
Regular check-ins, setting aside time to make sure that you're not having miscommunication. I statements. When something happens, I feel, when this experience happens, I feel or I notice instead of the you. The regular check-ins are extremely important because that is what keeps you connected to one another. The more you communicate, the more you're nurturing your relationship.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode on the Libido Lounge. I'm so excited to invite to the lounge a very special guest, a fairly recent new friend of mine. And before I invite her up, we're going to talk so much, as you heard in the intro, we're going to talk so much about one of the key things in libido and sexual wellness, which is communication. And of course, communication is not just about sexual intimacy. It's about everything in our relationship. And it's really the foundation, I feel, for healthy relationships as well as healthy sex lives. 92% of people that say they have really healthy sex lives talk about it. And in order to do so, we need to get conscious communication, effective communication, kind communication. We need to get the skills and the tools down for doing that. And that's what we're going to do today. And before I bring Elisha up, I also wanted to mention that those of us in the sexual wellness and relationship space really need your help. We are finding that even though we are talking about sexual wellness in ways of supporting people and ways of helping people grow this part of the relationship, fall more in love, be closer, approach this with kindness, compassion, with growth and all these things, that we are being censored on a lot of platforms. This is not just me. This is the hundreds and thousands of other people like me that are doing this work in the world. So the way we are able to reach others that need help is when you subscribe and share. So before we get started, if you could do that and help us get around this shadow ban world where when we talk about sex in a conscious way, we're still getting banned on the internet, we would really appreciate you. And then without further ado, thank you so much, my new friend. Thank you for coming to the show and welcome to the lounge.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to talk to you about this very extremely important topic. And it's actually something I'm extremely passionate about because without communication, things kind of unravel. So let's talk about this so that we're not unraveling anymore.
Yeah, it's amazing to me in looking at my own history of relationships and where I was historically versus now. And anytime I've ended relationships or, they've ended for whatever reason, whether of my doing or somebody else's doing, it's always important to go back and reflect. And it's amazing how many times in reflecting, you can look back and be like, well, that's communication gone wrong. And that's communication gone wrong. And that's communication gone wrong. So I just think it happens so frequently. So let's start, if you would, by just laying the foundation for us. Like, what are kind of the foundational things that we need to be thinking about in communication across the board in relationships, whether we're talking about sex or whether we're talking about any other thing that we need to communicate about? Where do we start? What are some of those foundational strategies?
So openness and honesty, right? Especially in the sexual wellness side of things, right? So openness and honesty is extremely important. Also do some regular check-ins, setting aside time to make sure that you're not having miscommunication in certain things, being intentional, setting space aside and saying, we're just going to communicate and talk during this period of time, because we can get so caught up doing tasks or and trying to manage things, you can miss out on the meaningful part of communicating, right? I statements. When something happens, I feel, when this experience happens, I feel or I notice, instead of the you, and then making statements like I feel hurt when, or, and rather than saying you always, and always speaking to the best of your ability on a respectful tone and letting your body language portray that, that's essential. And also being intentional about cultivating empathy within the conversation, trying to kind of see yourself in your partner's shoes, seeing their perspective of things to lay the groundwork for deeper communication.
So I was watching a movie recently. It was an old movie, I think from like 2010, 2012, something like that, called something like It's Over Life Over 40, something like that. And there was a part of this movie where they were practicing, clearly the couple was going to therapy and they were, practicing I statements and I feel statements. And they did a really good job. The movie was very cute of doing like a really good job of showing where like those kind of statements can go wrong. So I want to give this as an example and then ask how people avoid the example I'm going to give you, which is in the movie. They were like, well, I feel that you are an asshole. Right. That was like one of the statements in the movie. And so you're using your I, you got your feel word in there. So it's like, and I think, like nonviolent communication, for anybody that studied that type of work, it's like, oh, you use your feel statements and you have your feeling word list, and we can divert from that. So how do we, from that, how can you give us a little bit more like granular support there? Because I it's like we can get this, and it's like we can see. I feel like sometimes there's this thing that happens with knowledge, where like if we know part of the story but not like the whole story, then sometimes we can use it the wrong way and then get the wrong results. So can you go into that part a little bit more?
Okay, so it could be said, I feel when this situation happens. Like, I feel when I'm being ignored, when there's a ball game showing, or whatever you want to call it, that you're dismissing me, or that and it hurts my feelings. So instead of saying, I feel that you're being an asshole, see, there's the you are being an asshole. So we have to avoid that you. So being intentional about saying what that scenario looks like, providing the example of what, because the first thing somebody wants to do is deflect or say, I'm not being an asshole to you. I mean, you're being a bitch. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
you know, that's the first thing somebody wants to do. But if you're providing an example of what that looks like to you, because it could be misunderstanding of perception, right? So when you're breaking that down as to what, and providing examples, because that person could also be saying, oh, okay, I didn't realize I was doing that, or I didn't realize this was happening, or I realized this happened, but I didn't care, but I don't care, because I get that on the couch too, I don't care about how, and then that's another situation. That's a situation should you guys really be a couple, So those are the kinds of things that is a way to kind of flesh out the I feel statements. The I feel statements are intended for you to provide a more fleshed out example of what it is you're referring to that's making you feel like your partner is being an asshole.
Yeah. I'm going to give you another, that's helpful. I'm going to give you another example or another question with an example just to help our audience understand this more. Because I know another thing that comes up often, especially in hetero relationships, just because of the difference between male brain and female brain. But of course, this can happen in homosexual relationships as well, is that one partner will like try to communicate something. Like, for example, a partner will take out like the trash bag from the trash and leave it by the door, hoping their partner will take it out. And then their partner walks by it, and then it's like, the partner that left the trash bag there is like, well, what the heck? Like, I left this here. You didn't even grab it. Like, you clearly want me to do all the work. And they formulate all these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and partner B is like, well, I was so focused on getting to work or getting the kids or anything. Like, it didn't even register in my brain. It's not that I was trying to ignore you, but it didn't even register in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So like we have, and we can see examples like that all the time where there's this nonverbal communication, and one partner thinks like I clearly communicated nonverbally, and the other partner is like, well, I didn't know. So when somebody, these kind of things happen, and we have like partner, like these, this buildup of this kind of animosity and this frustration and all these things, can you just give us another real life example of like how we would break that down foundationally to address that, just for deeper understanding?
Sure. So
I have to take a break from what we were just talking about because I'm so excited to introduce you to a couple of my favorite toys on the market. Because one of the things I really, really am passionate about when it comes to sexual health, pleasure, passion, is not only those things, because those are very important, but it's also helping you find ways to deeply heal. And this is why I love the company Mystery Vibe so much, because their products I've seen to do just that. So I'm going to tell you about a couple of these. I have a product for women and a product for men here. So this is the female product. This is called the Crescendo 2. You will have links in the show notes. You will also get discounts on this. If you use the code LIBIDO20, you will get discounts on this product. And what's so cool about this product from a pleasure standpoint, and then we're going to talk about a health standpoint, but from a pleasure standpoint, look what I can do with this product. It is so bendable. So it has all of these hinges where you can bend it in all of these different ways. And what that's allowing you to do is be very specific around which part of the interior of the vagina, G-spot, etc., that you are going to access and stimulate. Now, what internal studies have shown on this particular product is that it increases arousal about 73% and lubrication up to 93%. So that's where I'm talking about, hey, we can get all of this uniqueness of pleasure. We can pinpoint those spots. We can wake up our vagina in ways that maybe other vibrators can't, because you can't get the level of maneuverability and flexibility that you can with this toy. And all of that, and then you can also see in many people an increase in arousal and lubrication for that deep healing component. Also, another product that Mystery Vibe has for women that also has been shown to improve arousal as well as lubrication is called the Legato. I will also put a link in the show notes about that. It's a cock ring that vibrates the entire vulva. It's phenomenal. So also look for that. Again, the code you're looking for is LIBIDO20 for that discount. And now for all the gentlemen watching. So this is the Canudo 2. So this toy is amazing because it has been researched to improve erections by double. So erections get better, performance gets better, and it can help with prostate health. So it's a super easy toy to use. It looks a little bit strange when you're looking at it, but all you're gonna do is you're gonna just do penile insertion right here. This back part will sit back on the perineum, and voila, there you go. So again, LIBIDO20 for this. If you guys want better erections, if you want to be harder longer, if you want to please your partner longer, and women, if you want to have a better arousal, better lubrication, and wake up those parts of your vagina so that not only are you experiencing more pleasure, more passion, better orgasms in many cases, but you are also deeply healing yourself as well. So again, those will be in the show notes. I hope you take advantage of these discounts and the coupon codes there. LIBIDO20 is your coupon code. I will see you all in a moment as we get back to our show.
A quick word from our sponsors before we continue with the episode.
Ladies, midlife isn't a crisis. It's a power move. On the Mature Allure podcast, we're flipping the script on aging, beauty, wellness, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sherry O, here to keep it real, fun, and fearless. Ready to embrace every chapter? Hit play on Mature Allure, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Midlife your way, that's mature.
I found that assumption can be extremely dangerous, right? So we never want to assume, because we're not that person or that other person. We're ourselves, right? So we never want to kind of go in the world of assumption, even though you might know this person as well as you think you know, you're still not that person, right? So it's dangerous to assume that someone else knows what you're thinking or what they're going to do, because you don't know. We don't know. So it's always best to be intentional with, with empathy and being as honest as you can. Hey, do you mind picking up that trash, or I left that out for you? What's your schedule like today? Like, not trying to assume that someone has the bandwidth to do something, because we don't always know what that other person's doing. You get where I'm coming from? So
Yes.
that's one of the best ways to handle that, because it's kind of like this, like to a degree, it's because then you paint this narrative in your mind, you go through these what if mindsets, and it's really just a matter of, I just didn't see it and I was trying to run out the door, and I had to put some gas in the car, and before I got to work, and I wanted to make sure I left early enough so that I could do that, those kinds of things, so it's extremely dangerous to assume. It's always best to ask open-ended questions before getting to that place of drawing a narrative around that. And I'll say this too, in the world of texting, sometimes it's better to go into verbal or FaceTime types of conversations, or face-to-face conversations, versus a text, because that person can't see your body language. That person will just see the text, and the tone of the text from their perception could look like something it's really not.
Yeah, I think it's such important advice. It's like, I think it's so quick that sometimes we send off and fire off these types of texts, and we're just in a hurry. And so it sounds, it's like maybe it even could be taken a certain way. But all it is somebody's in a hurry and they're just like typing as fast as they can to respond to something, or talking to text as fast as they can. And it's really misconstrued. So then what about, like, because I think one of the things that happens and where these conversations get into like these vicious cycles, right, is where
The
we start to
circular
have these,
talk.
the
Right.
circular talk, and this scenario where it's like, if the conversation doesn't go well, we already have like a pain happening, and like whatever the misunderstanding was, or some sort of pain that's happening around that, and feelings. And then if we take it to communication and the communication doesn't go well, that's like a second arrow into the relationship. And then, sometimes we can get into situations where it's like, goodness, well, that didn't go well. So now I'm going to try a different strategy, and maybe I'm not even going to bring it up and talk at all. And we start shoving things under the rug, and, and all of that. So is there any other like advice that you would give us and give our audience here around, in the conversations that we're having, and using I feel words, and making sure we're staying out of the narrative, and making sure we're not texting and we're verbally communicating, and all these things you're talking about? Is there anything else that you would give to us to really help prevent that, when we are bringing these conversations up and we're communicating, that we're actually preventing that long-term damage to the relationship?
That's why those regular check-ins are extremely important. That's why being intentional about setting up time just to talk to each other. In the beginning of the relationship, that's how he started, really. It was talking.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then, with that, my other question with that is, when it comes to this and the check-ins, what does that look like? Like, what are the frequency of the regular check-ins? Is there a format of these regular check-ins? How often do you recommend that? And like, what do those check-ins look like? How can people kind of take that first step to doing this?
I think if you're able to, especially as busy as the life is today, try to do it every day, you know, as much as you can. So if you can't do it every day, every other day, because communication, the way you're talking to each other, that is the lifeblood of your relationship. That is what helps you to survive. That's what helps your connection, you know. Um, that is what that is the beginning of the intimacy link between the two of you, is really being able to communicate. And what that can look like, well, you get to define what that looks like to you. So it can be prescribed, as in, you know, like what when I typically work with my clientele, typically talk with them about addressing any triggers that happen within the communication of the day. That's the time to get clarity around the trash bag, right? On that was left on the front step. Or that's the time to be able to understand like what that other person was thinking when it came to whatever the situation or the scenario. That's the time to talk about parenting. Maybe you have some contrasting parenting. You don't agree with how one person did something, and to get clarity about that, about those types of things. So the regular check-ins are extremely important because that is what keeps you connected to one another. And if that is what saves that is what will save the relationship too. It'll protect it against infidelity. It'll protect you guys and from being strong in your financial decisions. It will help you with being able to notice any red flags of maybe, any red flags within that's outside of your family or couple circle, you know, is through communication. So the regular check-ins are extremely important. And within that, not coming back at that as a way to get back from that person, but doing it within being conscientious of your body language and speaking with each other in a respectful tone, wanting to get clarity with the mindset of clarity. Let that frequency be, I'm trying to better understand so that we can strengthen our bond.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know a lot of our listeners are probably like, wow, every day, every other day, like, how do we have time for this? So, can you tell us a little bit more around okay, how does this look? Is this like something at the end of the day where you're asking a question such as, are you, honey, I just want to do our regular check-in. Did anything come up for you that was, were frustrated by, or how did today go? How did our relationship? Is it like just kind of a quick, like, let me just ask you questions. Are you holding on to anything? Did I upset you in any way? Is that what it is? Like just kind of like a quick clear the air?
It's a quick clear the air, and you get to pick when you want to do it. So, because life is busy. So if it's before you go to bed, if it's during, if it's a quick phone call in the middle of the day, if it's in the morning while you're getting yourselves together, you get to decide how you want to do it, as it is the rhythm of your relationship.
Yeah.
And it
I
doesn't
like
have to, and it doesn't have to be firm. Like it doesn't have to be, it can alternate. Like you can alternate. It doesn't have to be firm. The point is just do it, and it doesn't have to be, like I was saying, like every day, especially if you're travel, there's couples that travel, or if it's you get to pick how you want to do it, and you get to pick the frequency of how you want to do it. I'm just saying the more you communicate, the more you're nurturing your relationship. And the more you nurture your relationship, the stronger and the healthier it'll be.
Yeah, that's very fair. And I want to give everybody an action step right now around I would, make a point today, because we know we only get results when we take action. So I'd make a point today to talk to your partner around when do we want our regular check-ins to be? What is our schedule? What does this look like? And schedule it, is like what you're saying around, like, it could be middle of the day. So whether that's like the same time every day, or it's a check-in Sunday night once a week to be like, what's your work schedule like this week? When can we fit this in? But we need to actually have some sort of like operational logistical plan of when we're going to do this, because otherwise, what I've seen, I think so many other people see, is like, if it's not in the schedule, probably not going to get attended to. So much great stuff today. We are continuing, everybody, in part 2, where we're going to talk with Elijah even more on how to listen better, how to work with communication when our relationships are changing. So let's say we have this down, and then we have a kid, or then somebody has some sort of travel schedule where they're traveling around the world every week for their job. These types of things. We're going to talk about those in part 2, as well as how to really build upon this and build more tools for that stronger communication. So all of that is coming in part 2. But before we go there, I want to make sure that we give you the opportunity, because I know some people are going to want to take next steps. How do people get a hold of you? Tell us a little bit about like how people get a hold of you. What are the next steps with, working with you, that sort of thing. And of course, everything that is a link we will include in the show notes.
Okay, great. So I'm at restoringyouchristiancounseling.com, YOU, at that website. So you can go into that website, you can pull it up. I usually have psychoeducation groups for married couples that are usually like cohorts or things of that nature. You can check that out as well. So those are the kinds of things, if you want to reach out, or you can give me a call, 443-860-6870. And you can always check out the podcast to get information on different types of relationship advice, as well as sexual wellness. As a matter of fact, you're on there, you're on the show too. So if
I
you
am.
want to check that out.
Absolutely. Yep. And we will have all of those links in the show notes. So thank you again for joining us. And everybody, I hope you will join us for part 2, where we're going to go even deeper on this conversation. We will see you all there. Thank you for listening to the Libido Lounge. Please don't keep me a secret. Please share this with your friends. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, as well as how to work with me at mylibidodoc.com.